It was supposed to be quick. She told her family she was stepping out to grab supplies for her business, something she'd done countless times before. She didn't pack a bag. She didn't say goodbye like she was leaving for long. She expected to be right back. But as the day went on, the messages stopped. Her phone, which had been sharing its location, went silent. The signal disappeared. And when her mother drove to her home, she found her daughter gone. By nightfall, the concern had hardened into something worse. She hadn't missed an errand. She hadn't decided to disappear. Something had interrupted her day, and no one could explain where she'd gone or why her car would later be found somewhere she never planned to be. Her name was Ashley Elkins. Hey there, and welcome to Sleuthy Express, where the timeline stays tight, the story stays true, and the focus stays on what matters, just the timeline and the context. Here, it's true crime in record time. Today's case is about how disappearance doesn't always come with warning, and how the earliest explanations can sometimes delay the most important questions. It's a story that unfolds quietly at first, through missed calls, through instincts that won't settle, and through a family searching for answers before anyone knows what they're looking for. All right, let's go back to the moment this stopped being routine. It started early. Just after 8 a.m., Ashley told her sister Alexis she was heading out to pick up supplies for her hair business. She planned to stop at Kelly Beauty Supply in Roseville. Nothing about the message felt urgent. Nothing suggested a problem. Not long after that, Ashley's mother, Monica, woke from a disturbing dream. In it, Ashley's car was abandoned near a tree. The doors were open. Something felt wrong. She texted Ashley about it. At 9:06 a.m., a response came back. "Aw, man." The message didn't sit right with her. Monica said it didn't feel like Ashley. Not the wording, not the tone. And within minutes, her concern turned physical. 10 minutes later, she was at Ashley's door. Ashley wasn't there. As the day went on, the silence stretched. Ashley's phone had been sharing its location with family. By around 4 p.m., that signal stopped. The location went dark. Monica began searching on her own, driving, calling, posting on Facebook, trying to reach anyone who might have seen her daughter. By 8 o'clock that evening, she reported Ashley missing to police. Ashley Elkins was a mother of 2 young boys. She ran her own hair business out of her home, balancing clients, schedules, and parenting the way so many women do, quietly and consistently. Family members described her as independent, focused on stability, and deeply committed to her children. Ashley wasn't reckless. She wasn't impulsive. She didn't disappear from people's lives, especially not her boys, who were her world. On the day she vanished, she was doing something ordinary, running an errand to support her work and her family. And yet, the very thing no one expected appeared to have happened. Ashley was gone. While Monica searched for answers, police began retracing Ashley's steps, starting with the places she was expected to go and the places she never made it back from. As investigators worked to understand where Ashley had gone, another question began to take shape. What happened in the hours between the moment she left that morning and the moment her family realized something was terribly wrong? Monica didn't wait for police to activate. From the morning after her disturbing dream, she searched and kept searching, driving until dawn, going live on Facebook, pleading with family and friends for help. She refused to sit still while answers were out of reach. The next day, the family widened the search. Before Ashley's phone went silent, they had been monitoring her location through Life 360. The last known location pointed to an apartment in Roseville, the apartment of someone Ashley knew. So at 3:22 p.m., Monica, Ashley's sister Anaya, and Ashley's best friend LaShawn went to that apartment. They were buzzed into the building unexpectedly. They knocked. The apartment door opened. No one was inside. While there, they found a cell phone. It wasn't Ashley's, but they turned it over to police anyway. At the same time, other members of the family mobilized. An uncle, a former prosecutor, reached out to media contacts. Flyers were created. A community rally took shape. That evening, around 7 p.m., police from Warren, where Ashley lived, and Roseville, where the apartment was located, conducted a joint welfare check at the same unit. The door was already ajar. Officers announced themselves and stepped inside. On that first walkthrough, they saw no obvious signs of a struggle, no visible blood, no Ashley. They left. The following day, a new call came in. At 2:34 p.m., a man called 911 from Flint. He reported that his apartment had been broken into. He said he'd seen online that Ashley's family had entered the unit. He also contacted the apartment complex, asking maintenance to secure the door. When officers returned, they noticed something different. The door frame showed damage. A deadbolt hung loose. There were no wood shavings to indicate when the damage occurred. During a protective sweep, they saw what appeared to be blood spatter in the bathroom and a smear along the wall. Officers exited the unit and requested a search warrant. Once it was granted, the scene changed. Inside, investigators noted multiple types of trash bags, including heavy-duty, rip-resistant bags. They found bleach on the bathroom sink, and beneath a love seat in the living room, they located a 9mm handgun. At that point, investigators believed they could be dealing with a crime scene. That night, the case was officially transferred from Warren Police to Roseville Police, and the investigation had shifted from a missing person case to one suggesting something far more serious. Not long after, a detective contacted the man who had reported the break-in. His name was DeAndre Booker, Ashley's ex-boyfriend. They had been broken up for a couple of months. DeAndre told detectives Ashley had stopped by around 8:30 that prior morning. He claimed she left around 11:30. He said he was in Flint. When asked about Ashley's car, he told the detective that, as far as he knew, it was silver. As detectives continued reviewing the case, they returned to DeAndre with what they had found so far. During a recorded call, a detective told DeAndre that blood had been located inside the apartment. The wording was careful, described as possibly old. DeAndre responded that it could have come from anything. During that same conversation, DeAndre told detectives he was dealing with personal problems. He said he was being laid off, that he was behind on rent, that eviction was imminent. An eviction notice was found during searches. On January 5th, detectives began a full review of surveillance footage from the apartment complex, requesting video from January 1st through the early hours of January 5th. What they saw began to change the case. The footage showed Ashley arriving at the complex around 8 a.m. on January 2nd. Later that day, at 12:33 p.m., surveillance captured a man matching DeAndre's appearance walking toward Ashley's car with an unidentified woman. Both were seen entering the vehicle, but that wasn't the end of it. As detectives continued reviewing the footage, they observed the same man, wearing the same clothing, carrying large bags and boxes, making multiple trips to the dumpster area throughout the day and into the night. At one point, he was seen retrieving an empty shopping cart from a nearby mall area. Later, that same cart appeared again. This time, it was no longer empty. Detectives noted that something appeared to be inside the cart, something large, an object partially covered, with what looked like an arm hanging out of the cart. Investigators began canvassing residents for additional footage, including ring cameras. More video surfaced, corroborating the movements seen on the complex cameras. With that footage in hand, detectives returned to DeAndre with follow-up questions. They asked whether Ashley had left the apartment wearing the same clothes she arrived in. He said yes. They asked whether she left driving her Malibu with black rims. He said yes. He told detectives they met from time to time just to talk. But another discrepancy surfaced. When asked about his firearm, DeAndre told detectives it was next to his bed. During the search of the apartment, police had found the gun under a love seat in the living room. By January 6th, the questions became more pointed. At 6:25 p.m., a detective called DeAndre to clarify his movements and whether he had left the complex on January 2nd. DeAndre said he had gone to a downtown Detroit address and pointed to a Chipotle DoorDash order as proof that he wasn't there. But detectives compared that claim to the surveillance timeline. The clothing he described wearing matched what was seen on camera, and the footage showed he never left the complex that evening. Instead, he was seen moving through the property, to and from the dumpsters, throughout the night and into the early morning hours. When the detective told DeAndre that the man seen entering Ashley's Malibu looked like him, DeAndre denied it. He said he always used Uber to get around town. He claimed he left for Flint sometime between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. on January 3rd by Uber. But by that point, detectives weren't speculating. They were comparing statements against footage, timestamps, and physical evidence. And the two were no longer aligning. With the surveillance timeline tightening, detectives turned to digital records. Search warrants were issued for Uber and DoorDash accounts, and phone data was analyzed to track movements and timing. What came back didn't support DeAndre's account. Uber records showed he was picked up around 5:17 a.m. near Glendale and Gratiot and dropped off in Flint about an hour later. When asked to provide a screenshot to support his version of events, he never did. As investigators dug further, they discovered that DeAndre had used multiple Uber accounts, including one operating under the alias Devin Banks. The timing didn't match what he'd told detectives, and it didn't match what they were seeing on surveillance. Around 4 a.m., just before running to catch the Uber, the man on video, the one detectives believed was DeAndre, was seen pushing the shopping cart loaded with something heavy toward a nearby dumpster. Moments later, he appeared to struggle as he transferred the contents from the cart into the dumpster. Phone data added another layer. Ashley's phone last pinged near Kelly Beauty Supply around 2 p.m. After that, the phone went dark, powered off, or destroyed, and was never recovered. DeAndre's phone showed activity in the same area, but store surveillance told a different story. Video from Kelly Beauty did not show Ashley entering or exiting the store. Instead, it showed another woman going in and out while DeAndre waited nearby in an Uber. As detectives reviewed multiple days of footage from the apartment complex and Kelly Beauty, one conclusion became unavoidable. Ashley never left the complex alive, and the woman seen on surveillance was not Ashley. By January 7th, crime scene processing intensified. Technicians collected blood evidence from multiple areas inside the apartment: hallway walls, a closet, carpet, the bathroom vanity, and the toilet. Chemical testing revealed what wasn't visible at first. The bathroom lit up. Blood was detected throughout the space. At that point, the bathroom became the primary crime scene. What began as a disappearance had now been reconstructed through footage, timestamps, and forensic evidence. Ashley hadn't vanished. She had been stopped. On January 7th, investigators located Ashley's car. It was found at Gulf Manor Apartments, just a couple of miles from DeAndre's apartment. The discovery closed one more gap in the timeline. That same day, a search warrant was executed at a home in Flint, the residence where DeAndre had been staying. Inside Officers recovered clothing and shoes that matched what was seen on surveillance footage. They also seized DeAndre's phone. When investigators attempted to interview him, DeAndre declined and asked for an attorney. Based on the evidence gathered up to that point, investigators arrested him, initially charging him with lying to a peace officer during a serious crime investigation. As the investigation continued, another detail surfaced. During a recorded call, DeAndre referred to the unidentified woman seen on surveillance as his niece. The word didn't go unnoticed. Investigators took a closer look and confirmed that the woman was Payne, his niece. On January 9th, detectives interviewed Payne. She cooperated. She provided the clothing she had been wearing on the day she appeared on surveillance. She said DeAndre had asked her to help him move a friend's car. She also described what she experienced inside the apartment. Payne told detectives that she had been asked to wait before using the bathroom. She recalled hearing cleaning sounds and noticed the smell of pine sol. Later, in court, Payne was shown a photograph of the bathroom. She said it didn't look the way she remembered. She noted that she did not recall seeing bleach on the sink. And she remembered a shower curtain, blue with a bird or animal design, pulled closed. She told investigators she never looked behind it. By that point, the pieces were no longer isolated. Surveillance, digital records, forensic evidence, and witness statements were beginning to align. And the focus of the investigation had narrowed decisively. In the weeks that followed, investigators returned to DeAndre's former apartment. This time, they focused on what couldn't be seen. Drains were removed from the unit, along with other items, and sent out for forensic testing. By late February, the results came back. On February 27th, DNA reports began to confirm what investigators had been piecing together. A blue jacket recovered in Flint tested positive for blood. Ashley Elkins was identified as the sole contributor. Bloodstains collected from the hallway outside the bathroom matched Ashley. Swabs taken from the bathroom vanity also pointed to her. Inside the bathtub drain, Ashley's DNA was identified again as the sole contributor. Investigators also tested a stain found on the floor of a dumpster. That sample matched Ashley as well. A bullet fragment recovered during the investigation was consistent with the caliber of the handgun found inside the apartment. Testing could not definitively determine whether that specific weapon fired the round, but by that point, the pattern was clear. Ashley's DNA appeared in multiple locations, inside the apartment, in the drainage system, and in areas connected to disposal. At the same time, search efforts expanded beyond the apartment. From January 13th through January 19th, authorities conducted a large-scale recovery operation at Pine Tree Acres landfill. More than 700 acres were searched, by hand, in an operation investigators later described as an archaeological dig. During that search, items believed to resemble potential evidence were recovered and sent for further analysis. Even without the recovery of a body, investigators continued building the case piece by piece. By then, the question was no longer whether Ashley Elkins had been harmed. It was how the evidence would ultimately be presented, and when. On January 8, 2025, investigators had gathered enough evidence to take DeAndre Booker into custody. At that time, Ashley Elkins was still officially listed as missing. DeAndre was initially arrested for lying to police during a violent crime investigation. As the investigation continued, the charges expanded. By the summer of 2025, prosecutors upgraded the case, charging DeAndre with first-degree premeditated murder, tampering with evidence, disinterment or mutilation of a corpse, concealing a death, and lying to police. Court filings later described the charges using similar language, including references to dismemberment or mutilation of a corpse and the deliberate concealment of Ashley's death. Following his arrest, DeAndre was held at the Macomb County Jail. Prosecutors requested a high bond, citing the seriousness of the charges and concerns about flight. He was initially held on a $250,000 cash bond. His attorney requested a reduction. The judge denied that request, pointing to DeAndre's criminal history and the risk that he could flee. Court records outlined portions of that history. In 2016, DeAndre faced a larceny-related charge involving fraudulent identification documents. The final disposition was not clearly established. In 2017, he was charged with being AWOL, absent without leave, and later discharged from the military under less than honorable conditions. Investigators also noted that after Ashley disappeared, DeAndre left Macomb County and traveled to Flint, where he was later located. Digital searches recovered during the investigation showed inquiries related to the fastest route from Flint to Ohio and what to do while on the run. By that point, the case against him had moved from investigation to prosecution. As the case moved into court, the defense strategy became clear. A significant portion of their argument focused on Ashley's family, specifically her mother, Monica, her sister Anaya, and her best friend, LaShawn. The defense suggested that the family had entered the apartment before police, removed a phone from inside the unit, and were dishonest about where that phone was found, despite ultimately turning it over to police. They raised questions about who entered the apartment, when they entered, and what may have been disturbed before officers conducted a full search. The second part of the defense hinged on procedural challenges. They pointed to the damaged door frame and loose deadbolt, arguing a possible break-in and challenging whether the evidence should be allowed. They emphasized delays and multiple entries before a search warrant was obtained. They also referenced a tip that Ashley may have been seen at a Detroit address, arguing it was a lead that wasn't fully pursued. Rather than disputing the evidence itself, the defense focused on how that evidence was collected and whether proper procedure was followed. After the preliminary hearing concluded, the case didn't move quickly. It took several months for the judge to review the full scope of the evidence before deciding whether DeAndre Booker would be held over for trial. In his ruling, Judge Bodecker pointed to DeAndre's own Google searches as part of the basis for finding sufficient evidence to bind him over for trial. Among the searches cited by the court were questions like how to make her miss you, silencer 9mm, and others related to gun accessories and breakup dynamics, searches investigators said were made in the days before and after Ashley's disappearance. With that determination made, DeAndre Booker was arraigned on January 22, 2026, in the Macomb County Circuit Court. Ashley's family was present in court. He entered a plea of not guilty and continues to be held without bond. If the current schedule holds, the case is expected to go to trial sometime in late 2026, and while the courts will determine what happened inside that apartment, there are already questions about timelines, responsibility, and what evidence reveals, and what it doesn't. If you want more cases like this, stories that go beyond the headlines and explore how investigations evolve long after the news cycle moves on, don't forget to follow the Sleuthy Stories podcast. And when there's an update in this case, we'll be back here.